Knowing the laws really well of every state you're going to travel through is crucial in staying legal and staying safe. An excellent tool for that is the USCCA app. It's the reciprocity app, and I'm going to suggest you go download it now. It's free. You don't have to join. And we're going to go down that app and try to understand some of the things. And I think that will really help you to get a better picture of what all we're talking about. So I'm going to put this up on the screen. You should be seeing it on the screen. First, we're going to look at this map. And this is a map of the states. And so kind of describe what these colors that we're seeing mean.
So the red states are, so if we're using Nevada as an example, if you had a Nevada CCW, the red states would be the states that do not reciprocate our CCW. They don't recognize Nevada's CCW. Some of these states are states that they only recognize their own CCW, and you need to be a resident of that state in order to carry that CCW, like California, for example. Green states are generally a little more friendly towards the Nevada CCW. The yellow states are generally going to be basically with restrictions that are they're not as similar to the law that what you have to do here in Nevada, right?
But if I'm going to travel through any of these states, it's pretty easy to look it up and find all the laws.
Right.
So, for example, if I'm going to Nebraska, let's just say Nebraska, then it's yellow, and I can look down at all the yellow states and find Nebraska. And I pull up Nebraska, and it has a list of the laws. Why don't you briefly describe what all this gobbledygook means?
Okay. So first thing you'll see, it'll start off with self-defense laws, and it says castle doctrine. Nebraska is a castle doctrine state, which means that you are allowed to protect your home with deadly force against an intruder in that state. Now, every state's castle doctrine kind of varies, so it is important that you actually look at what castle doctrine in that state entails. Okay, that means a lot of the time when you have castle doctrine, there is no duty to retreat. You'll see that right below there, where it's saying what is your duty to retreat. There in Nebraska, there is no duty to retreat while in a person's dwelling or workplace. However, present law requires citizens, if outside their home, vehicles, or outbuildings, to retreat before protecting themselves or family against violent intruders. So there is a variance to the duty to retreat. So you have no duty to retreat under castle doctrine, but outside of a domain in that situation, you would have a duty to retreat, meaning that if you are able to run away and get out of the area, you're required to egress and get to safety. It's when your back is against the wall and you can't go anywhere else is when you're able to use deadly force outside of the home or dwelling situation in that state, right? That's where you'll see the stand your ground down below that. It is not a stand your ground state, so you are not, as opposed to here in Nevada. Nevada is a stand your ground state, so as long as you're legally allowed to be in the location you're at, you're not the original aggressor, you're not in furtherance of criminal conduct, and you've done everything you can to decline the challenge, right? Then you're able to stand your ground where you're at and use deadly force. You're not required to run away, right? In Nebraska, you would be required to get out of there, run away if you absolutely can.
So, if you can do it safely.
If you can do it safely, yes. And that is outside the dwelling, right? So that's the difference of your duty to retreat for castle doctrine versus use of deadly force in a public area. Does that make sense?
Very much, yeah.
The next one down that you would see on that list would be constitutional carry. Is constitutional carry legal? What constitutional carry means is that basically permitless carry. You do not technically need a CCW to conceal a firearm on your person. There are many states that are following suit with constitutional carry nowadays to allow everybody to conceal the firearm and protect themselves without having to jump through any hoops, basically. So it's a matter of knowing what the laws are in that state for that instance. And then next down below there would be open carry, right? Is open carry permitted? What open carry means is having the gun visible on your person. So some states would stipulate that the gun would have to be visible from 3 different sides. Here in the state of Nevada, the legal term for open carry would be as long as the firearm is discernible by ordinary observation. If you can look at somebody and see that they have a firearm, that's technically open carry. Next below that, you would have mag limits. Mag limits means, the magazine capacity, right? For a lot of states, it would be a capacity of 10, right? They cap their mag capacity at 10. If you have a magazine of higher capacity, then it's not allowed in that state, basically, right? Now, California is one of them. New York is one of them. Ammo restrictions. Some states don't allow green tip or certain types of ammunition being carried. It would vary state from state. That list is great. You would have to see yourself, what that state's law is for the ammo that you're carrying. That's a hard one to go over, honestly.
Right.
It's that varies state to state, and it's a vast variance, right? Down below that, you'll see signs enforced. They say, yes, signs are enforced in that state. That means that if there's a no guns allowed sign, whether it's on a private building or public building, generally they're going to enforce that by law. So private building would be like a grocery store or a restaurant, something like that. If they have a no guns allowed sign, or if it's out in a public area, and it says no guns allowed in this vicinity, they hold the force of law. Here in the state of Nevada, to give you a contrast, would be public buildings, funded by state or federal tax dollars, like the courthouse, the sheriff's office, a post office. The signs on those buildings that say no guns allowed or no weapons allowed, those signs hold the force of law. You can be charged with bringing weapons into those areas, right? Private buildings, however, casinos, grocery stores, restaurants, etc., those signs are just store or company policy, and they do not hold the force of law. You can't be charged with carrying the firearm in that facility. You could be asked to leave by the organization, whatever the company is, and you could be trespassed. And if you come back or don't abide by their request, it could be a criminal trespass. So not the same charge, but nonetheless, we don't want to step on any toes, right? Carrying under the influence. That would obviously be if you're, drinking alcohol or any other substances. Marijuana would be one of those as well. In that state, it's saying not while consuming or while the permit holder has remaining in his blood, urine, or breath previously consumed any alcohol or controlled substance. There, generally, it would stipulate in that statute whether it's any at all. Right, most of those places, those states where you're not allowed to carry under the influence, you're also generally not allowed to carry the firearm in any establishment that serves alcohol. Colorado is one of those states where you can't have a firearm in a bar or a restaurant that has a bar, things like that. If they serve alcohol, you can't have the firearm anywhere near. In a state like Nevada, the legal limit is .08. You are legally allowed to carry your firearm in a bar, whether it's open or concealed. You could legally drink a beer. You could legally take a shot. If you are over the limit, though, you will be, charged for carrying under the influence, right? So that there's that contrast out there. You just got to know what do they consider in that state under the influence? Do they have a .08 law, or is it completely sober, right? However, we recommend, obviously, if you're carrying a firearm, you shouldn't be drinking anything whatsoever. That first sip is going to be held against you in the court of law. To that prosecutor's standard, you're technically under the influence. And from a responsible firearm owner's point of view, The moment you take that first sip, the physiology of your brain completely changes. You're no longer operating on a sober mindset. Your rationale changes. So we highly recommend you don't have any alcohol, no substances whatsoever if you're carrying a firearm.
You'll find in a lot of these, they have a link directly to the statute.
Exactly.
And so if some of it's not clear, you can go and actually read the rule and
The
law.
actual statute, and that's highly recommended when you're looking at what what the allowances is for carrying the firearm in these states. Don't just take the surface of what you're seeing as, okay, I know what I need to know. You should be clicking those links and you should be reading into it so you have a full understanding of what you should be doing while you're carrying, and what their under the influence pertains to, what their ammo restrictions pertains to, what the signs and force pertains to, right? Each state will have a generally a difference of variance in what their legislature states, right? And literature is everything when it comes to the laws. So that's what you really got to be careful of, because it could make the difference of you're following 90% of the law, but you did 10% wrong and you broke the entire law, right? So that's important for you. Next, under there, you'd have H for concealed carry. That obviously will show you know, in Nebraska, you must be 21 years or older to conceal carry in that state. Some states 19 and older, right? There's state to state, it varies. Duty to inform. That's the big one that when you're seeing those different colors and states on the USCCA reciprocity map, a lot of the yellow states are going to be duty to inform. So if you do get pulled over, or you come in contact with an officer, right, whether they pulled you over or they came up to you on the street, you have a duty to inform that officer that you are carrying a firearm or a weapon of some sort. You're going to let them know, excuse me, officer, I'm a CCW holder, or whether you're, a CCW holder or not, if it's constitutional carry, excuse me, officer, I have a firearm. It's in my waist at my 4 o'clock position, my appendix, my point of hip, and my shoulder area, whatever, wherever you have the firearm. We don't recommend you go to reach for that area to show them where it's at.
Bad idea.
You can just describe where you have it on your person, and that will, you're abiding by the law. They will proceed with the caution they need to proceed with. They will also appreciate that you've gone out of your way to be honest with them. Those types of things. Have professional courtesy. Carry in the vehicle. Are you allowed to carry a loaded handgun in a vehicle without a permit if it's in plain sight? In Nebraska, yes, you are allowed. That is an important thing to know. Some states would say no, you need to have it unloaded and in a secure location. I believe Utah is one, or not Utah, excuse me, Oregon is one of those where if it's in the vehicle, it needs to be in a locked container, unloaded, out of reach. California, three separate locked locations for the gun, ammo, and magazine. Again, click on those links, read the statute, and be familiar with it, because that is the small variances where the officer will hold you accountable. A good example here in Nevada that's saying ammo restrictions, the manufacture or sale of metal penetrating bullets are prohibited. I think those would be like black tip, ammunition, something like that. They're designed for armor penetrating, metal penetrating. Green tips are illegal here because they are not designed for that reason. They're just described as non-frangible rounds, meaning that when they hit the target, they're not going to break apart, basically. So I think that's why, certain states are able to get away with the green tip ammunition. I have yet to come in contact with any of the metal penetrating ammunition. You really just need to be prepared. You need to be prepared for anything and everything when it comes to this stuff, because it is such a huge responsibility and such a huge liability, not only for yourself personally and legally, but for the environment around you, the society you're in. If you don't take the training and owning of your firearms seriously, you're a liability on the public, right? You having a gun out there you're a huge risk to somebody else that's just trying to go about their day, trying to go grocery shopping or take their kid to the park, or doing any type of daily task. If you're not as precise and optimal as you can be when you are carrying and handling your firearm, then you're creating a dangerous environment for the world around you. So, we urge you just to be as responsible as you can be prepared. Don't be the person that says it won't happen to me. That mindset is the most detrimental mindset, where it happens, but it most likely isn't going to happen to me. Crime and evil have no address, they have no prejudice, and they have no schedule, and it can happen at any day, any time, to anyone. And it's our responsibility to be prepared and train to the highest standard for ourselves that we possibly can, and don't settle for less when it comes to this stuff. You need to constantly seek to get better with this, with this type of activity.
And it's really easy in here, like in Nevada and Pahrump, a lot of places where you have a local gun store where they are concerned about all these things, they care about these things, and they've got classes. You've got a range right here. We've been hearing it.
Yep.
And so, if you have questions, you can come in here and get a private tutor.
Yeah, you can come in here. You can call us from anywhere in the country. We don't care where you're from. Call us, ask us questions. We all come from a training background here. We've been training students for collectively, between the store manager, myself, and our other trainer, and our new staff member also. We have all collectively over 60 years of firearms training experience, teaching students self-defense and the liability that goes along with it. You can come in and use our range. We have tons of deals, discounts, special programs, memberships, like I said, private lessons, one-on-one, pistol courses, you name it. We do it all. Anything that you need gear-wise for your firearm and training needs, we have it here. We have the route for you to take to exceed the standards of your most expectations. We're continuing master certifications for the Handgun Combat Master test that Chuck Taylor created back in 1986. I'm the 33rd Handgun Combat Master through Front Sight when Front Sight was still running. So there's less than 100 people since the test was created that have passed that test, and we want to keep that. We want to carry the torch for Chuck and continue to give people the highest bar to strive for.
So this is one of those things you don't want to just guess. You don't want to, well, I think that's right. This is such a serious responsibility that they need to get to know their local gun shop and get used to coming in and just talking and finding out. And you got any questions, any doubts, find the reality.
Exactly. Yeah, we want you to be as familiar as you can be. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be shy. There's no such thing as a stupid question. You don't know what you don't know. Go to somebody who knows more. Ask them questions. Pick their brain, because there is no guesswork, like you said. This is not the activity to wing it, so to speak. Right? You need to be certain.
If I asked you what would be your best advice to someone living in an RV, a car, van, or RV, what would you say?
Have a plan. Have a plan in the worst case scenario. Whatever you imagine when you think of having to defend yourself in that RV or in a vehicle, what is the scenario that comes to mind? And you need to start formulating a plan of what you're going to do if that happens. Right? Just like when we were growing up and we were going to school, we did fire drills, right? They'd sound the alarm and everybody would get up and you'd go and you would walk to the location, whatever. We also need to do that in our daily life. If you're only thinking about, what you're going to do when it happens and you're not actually practicing it, then you're going to be met with a rude awakening if it ever does, because you're not going to perform as well as you think in your mind if you never physically practice, right? So you need to get up and run the drill of, oh, my door's kicked in, let me egress to my emergency spot, let me throw this down, let me grab this out, let me get it pointed, right? You need to run through that. You need to train. That's what it comes down to. So formulate the plan, come up with what you're going to do in the event of an emergency, and practice it with whoever you're going to be with. Everybody needs to be on the same page. If you have family that you travel with constantly, a wife, kids, brother, sister, it doesn't matter. You guys need to be on the same page when if or when the emergency hits, right? So that is the most important part, is knowing what to do and being able to do it.
Would you say, as a rule, life's gonna be easier? Say I decide to get a lever action with the handgun caliber 357 Magnum.
Mm-hmm.
Life is going to be a lot simpler with as far as legalities. They're not going to have the 10-round magazine.
No, but you can still put around 6 to 8 rounds in the magazine area where it feeds, right? Where it feeds that the round. You could technically, in the state of Nevada, you could have that, loaded up. You still nothing in the chamber.
Nothing in the chamber.
Because it's a rifle.
If I always carried it while I traveled,
Mm-hmm.
if I knew my state was legal, I could load it then and follow that state's laws,
Mm-hmm.
whatever they are.
Right.
But while I traveled, say I unloaded my lever action, and I kept the ammo separate, maybe locked up,
Mm-hmm.
going just to an extreme,
Mm-hmm.
I would almost run into no problems.
Pretty much.
So that's something to think about. For a nomad, you're living in a car, van, or RV. You got a long gun,
Mm-hmm.
and you get the penetration issues,
Right.
on and on. But the legal issues kind of just disappear with those common sense actions.
Right. Right. When you learn to mitigate, the risk, with what your main activity in life is, right? What your daily routine, what your lifestyle is. You kind of learn to just mitigate the risk, to give yourself the least amount of headache. What's the easiest thing to do to not run into trouble, right? And that could be one of them. You had a good point there about over penetration, right? If you are a nomad and you live in, you're living in your RV and traveling a lot, having a rifle and shotgun is that is a risk. That is your largest risk, choosing to use that for personal defense in that situation.
Let's define for the audience over penetration.
Over penetration would be the round continuing through the target, right? So if you were to fire that gun inside your RV and you either miss your adversary and it hits the wall or hits the door of the RV, or a window, it'll continue going through most likely. You still have that same risk if you hit your adversary in those close distances with the rifle or shotgun, that the round could over penetrate your adversary and could continue through the wall of your RV as well. It just kind of depends on what the caliber is, how close, what is the distance between you, the adversary, the wall, things like that. There's a lot of factors that come into play. What we call it is Rule 4, right? The fourth golden rule of firearm safety is know your target, right? Is this person is this adversary or target, whether it's paper or this game animal, is this my actual target that I am legally allowed to shoot, right? And once we determine that, then we need to know, is there anybody between me and this target, any innocent bystanders, any life supporting equipment, anything that I can't afford to hit, right, between me and the adversary that could get hit. And if I miss or over penetrate that adversary, is there any of that beyond as well? So that would be the golden rule that we kind of live by in that sense is, what is a safe Rule 4, right, for me to take that shot. In an RV situation, the best tactic to probably employ would be, if you are feeling danger in any fashion, right? The living quarters are generally in the back of the RV, right?
Generally.
So that would be probably where you're storing your larger gun for defense. you would generally probably barricade in the rear, because the best cover you're going to get out of any vehicle would be the engine block, right? The engine block in an RV is up at the front, right? So that would be the best rule for direction for you if you're using a rifle or shotgun, would be to be barricading and having your muzzle pointed towards the front of the RV, because you have much better odds that the engine block area, all of the electronics and everything, would have a better opportunity to stop that round from over penetrating. And especially if you're in an RV park or it's something like that where you have other RVs around you, if you're, taking that shot towards any of the walls, you have a very large risk that it could over penetrate your RV and hit your neighbor's RV, right?
Right.
And that's what you don't want.
Right. It's actually, they're so paper thin, it's very likely.
Yes, yes.
So when you pull that trigger, you're responsible for all damage that bullet does.
You are criminally and civilly liable for every round that leaves your firearm, whether you intended it to or not.
Right. So what would you think of a shotgun then, say 410?
Mm-hmm.
We really like, maybe even single shot 410,
Mm-hmm.
double barrel or
Right.
pump maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and not buckshot but birdshot. You're going to be really close, and the odds of over penetration drastically go down.
Yes, but so do the odds of stopping the adversary when you're using birdshot. The birdshot definitely at a close range would be very painful, but who knows what this adversary's on. If they're on any
Right.
type of drugs, that pain they may not even feel it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? There's a good chance, especially out of 410. So I wouldn't recommend using the birdshot, for a self-defense situation. You would either use the buckshot or or a slug in that situation. The velocity on a 410 much lower than a 12 gauge. You would be it is a much better option if you're concerned with a Rule 4 liability in an RV living situation. 410 is a great option. You would be looking at comparable stopping power to like a 380 almost. That size pellet is pretty close, right around the same. You're getting some of the same penetration value. So yeah, and you're getting more pellets than one round of 380, right? You're getting a few pellets going in that direction. And if you have a pump action, then yes,
You got to follow up.
you got a follow-up shot if you need to use it. Yes.
You can buy shotguns in 18-inch barrel. This is the shortest legally.
Mm-hmm.
So that's still fairly short. But you can even buy a kid's 410
Mm-hmm.
and make it easier to maneuver around. I mean, it's not going to be, if you're a big guy, it's not going to fit you well.
Right.
But you could shoot it if
You
you're
could.
thinking of it as self-defense.
Yeah.
And for a lot of the women, older people,
Mm-hmm.
that might be a really good choice.
Mossberg makes a Shockwave, which is like a pistol handle, 410. That is a very maneuverable defensive shotgun in that type of situation. You wouldn't be getting hung up on the tight spaces. You're not necessarily going to be bringing it up to your face. You could bring it up to eye level to aim with it, but generally speaking, you would be right around, close contact hip fire accuracy is what you'd be using that type of shotgun for, and you get your capacity out of it as well.
If you want to be knowledgeable, this is the stuff you need to know and think about.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot, it's complicated, but it's really what you have to think about.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know if people are going to learn it all in one sitting or not.
Yeah, they might have to watch it more than once, but really, once you do the homework and you get through the thinking, and then that process is done. Right. That's the hard part is formulating your plan. Getting it all together in a sense of what is my base plan of self and personal defense for traveling and things like that. What do I need to do to accommodate, and how simple can I make it, right? And going through all of this, putting the ideas in the watcher's mind is what's going to have them come up with their own process of what they need to do.
Don't take this stuff lightly.
Mm-hmm.
It's life and death.
It is. It is.
Well, Travis, thank you so much for
Thank you.
your time. I mean, you
Yeah.
gave me a whole bunch of your time. I really appreciate it. And your knowledge
Yes, sir.
and your enthusiasm.
Thank
you this is stuff that's important to you and you care about.
It is. We are passionate about it here. It makes
Yeah.
a difference in our lives, making a difference in other people's lives.
I know we've covered a lot of ground, a lot of ideas. Take some time, maybe go back and watch this a couple times. If you're thinking about a firearm, don't take it lightly. It's deadly serious. And most of all, find a good local gun shop and get to know them and get the classes, get the training, and so on. So if you got anything out of this video, like us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit that thumbs up button, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye now.